The greatest of all time when it comes to general managers in the NFL and head coaches in the NFL, joining us every Monday. But today, on this glorious NFL Eve Wednesday, Bill Belichick. Yeah. How are you, Coach?
Good, Pat. How's it going?
Hey, fantastic. How are you doing? It seems like you're loving the shit out of life right now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's football season, so ready to start the year. Excited to see the real games start and, start talking about them.
Okay, so, Coach, we always talk about players whenever they leave the game and, coaches whenever they leave the game, trying to get, accustomed to life without being in the NFL structure or football structure is a part of the conversation for people as they transition out of the game. For you, obviously, none of us know what the future looks like. We all assume you're going to get back into coaching. I think that's what everybody just assumes at this standpoint. They've even given you jobs already at different places for next year. But this year, with that mindset...
You mean besides Washington?
Yeah. Exactly. It's besides Washington over there, which you've been coaching all training camp, and I assume all year you're going to be up there working with Steve. But getting into the regular life here, how has it been for you? And is that why you're trying to stay active? Is because how active you've had to been for the last 50 years? Have you thought about all that stuff? And is this all planned?
Yeah, no big plan really. Just working with a lot of guys who have been in the NFL. And trying to keep up with the league. So I've had a chance to look at all 32 teams, not just one. I've been focused on one team and then a team we're going to play for a long time. But now it's a chance to look at other teams and how they do things schematically, how they build their organization, contracts, salary cap management, scouting, and so forth. I've had a chance to look at a lot of college players and watch, just watch how teams are operating. And that's different than what I've done in the past, but I've enjoyed it. And, we'll see how it goes.
What have you learned from the whole process that maybe you didn't know from this TV stuff? Because you're working with NFL Films. They're like top-of-the-line production company, and obviously you've had a relationship with them through your time in the NFL. They're like a 33rd owner, which leads to the 33rd team, which is an online digital brand making content. Then you're doing stuff with SiriusXM. Then you're doing more stuff with Omaha whenever you talk about the Monday Night Manning cast. And I know you've been working diligently through all of these things and the prep and rehearsal in learning about these things. What have you learned about the entertainment business, we'll say, that maybe you didn't know? And how are you liking all of it that you're kind of doing for the first time here?
Well, I've learned a lot about it. There's a lot about the production side that I had no idea, didn't know. But I'd say that, my podcast sponsors have taught me a lot. NFL Films has taught me a lot. Being on with you has taught me a lot. So, I'm starting to get some idea what goes on behind the scenes, things that I never knew about. I just showed up and, did an interview. Now there's a lot more to it than that. I appreciate what you guys do.
Okay, well, good. We appreciate the hell out of what you do. Let's talk about what you did for a long time at such a high level. Can't wait to learn from you all fall, and we thank you for joining us every Monday. Here we are, night before first game for the Chiefs and the Ravens. Would you rather be in Harbaugh's position? Take away like you just won a Super Bowl. Would you rather going into this game, talking to team, be in Harbaugh's position going into Banner Night or Andy Reid's position hosting Banner Night? And I'm just talking specifically as motivator message to team. Which side can kind of fuel off of that more, you think?
No, I think Baltimore definitely can. I think they've got to look back at the game last year and say, here's the things that we didn't do well. And if we can do those things well, then, we have a good chance to win this game. I think that, Kansas City obviously has an excellent team, and there's some things they have to sort out too. So, look, these two teams are going to be around for a while. Nothing's going to be decided after this game. I think both teams have a great opportunity because they've had to prepare for a tough opener, and I think that's probably heightened the intensity and the urgency in training camp where, it's not a lot of going through the motions just, one day after another. But, okay, we're getting ready for the Ravens or we're getting ready for the Chiefs. I think that just heightens everybody's preparation and in the long run just makes your team better because you've had a good training camp. All the good years that I've ever been a part of have always, been the result of a good solid training camp where guys are ready to play and are prepared to play both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So it's a good opportunity for both teams to do that.
Yeah, it feels like Patrick and Travis have the right mindset. Literally, after they win yeah, they do. They legitimately feel like they just want to be great, the greatest versions of themselves. And when you have that at your key positions, that helps everywhere else as well, right?
100%. I couldn't agree more, Pat. That's absolutely true. And, I think their attitude is, hey, we have a chance to repeat, never been done before. And, it's going to be tough, but we're up for the challenge and we want to do it, and they embrace it. And look, if your best players are working harder than anybody, then everybody else just tries to keep up, and that's a great situation to be in.
Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, we hear about the message you used, anyone that played for you or coached for you, like what you would tell them before the game, whether it's night before or even like the morning of, you would kind of lay out how the game might go and what's going to happen back and forth. I'm wondering, like, did you do that always as a head coach, and how did you learn that, and how did that kind of evolve over time? And also, how do you know that? How do you figure all that stuff out before it happens?
How's that work?
Specs Murray up here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's look. I think AJ, you know how it is as a player. Pat, you know the same thing. You listen to the coaches all week, and you get told 10,000 things, right? If they do this, you do that. And this play, we got this call. If you do that, they do this, and all that. And it's just back and forth. I've always tried to boil it down for the team. But like, look, fellas, everything's important, but we got to start somewhere. Like, something's number one, something's number two, something's number three. Let's not lose sight of the big picture. And really, a lot of that came from Coach Parcells. Bill Parcells is the best big picture person I've ever been around. He could absolutely sort things out and figure out these are the most important things we got to do. And he would tell me, Bill, don't bother me with this other stuff. That doesn't make any difference if we don't do these other things right. And so I really learned that from Bill at the Giants, tried to take it to Cleveland and throughout my career. And so, I think when you look at it, for example, like the Baltimore-Kansas City game, it comes down to a few basic things. The running game is going to be really important, for Baltimore to be able to stay out of third down situations, to be able to control the ball and run it more than they did last year. I'm sure they'll do that. I think that'll help their third down situation, which wasn't very good in the game offensively. For Kansas City, I think they're going to have to prove that they can shut down the run. I don't think Baltimore is going to not run it as much as they did last year. They're going to have to shut down the run, and then they're going to have to, play well and get off the field on third down like they did last year. But I think it'll be tougher than it was last year for them. So, those are pretty straightforward matchups there. We'll see how it turns out. But in the end, I think that, those are really important. And honestly, for Baltimore, I think that as much as Kelsey hurt them last year, with his 9 for 97 and a touchdown in the first half, what they really better be careful of is they don't get explosive plays against them by, the Kansas City core receivers, because they've had a lot of speed with Worthy and obviously, with Rice, being in his second year. I think that's a dangerous part of Kansas City's offense. It'll play a little bit different than it did last year.
You talked about Kansas City being able to stop the run against Baltimore. Baltimore adds Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, anomaly? Like, what do you think about Derrick Henry's game? And would you, the message is just like, hey, you're going to have to stand up. How do you coach against Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to stand up to it. This guy can... he's an explosive player that can push the pile, gain the tough yards when he needs to, and he can also, hit the home run. But I think the best thing about Derrick Henry is the fourth quarter. If you can get into a close game with him in the fourth quarter, he wears defenses down, and he's really a tough guy to tackle. Once he gets those guys a little bit tired and they're arm tackling, and maybe there aren't quite as many of them there as there were early in the game. He can break those tackles. So. Again, I don't think there's any way Baltimore runs the ball as infrequently as they did in the AFC Championship game. I think that Kansas City is going to have to stop it, and we'll see whether or not they can.
Why does matching him up with Lamar Jackson just seem like an impossible task to stop? That's like the perfect quarterback for Derrick Henry to be there, right? Because when I was at West Virginia, Pat White obviously had the speed to get the edge, but we had Owen Schmidt who was going to run you over. So he had to load the box a little bit, but if you're able to get outside, you're good. Lamar, Derrick Henry seems like the perfect fit, and when it happened, we were all like, of course, Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven. Is it a perfect fit over there in your eyes?
Well, I really think, Pat, the toughest thing about the Baltimore offense is their combination of power and speed. I think it's unlike any other team in the league, honestly. They have Derrick Henry, they have Richard, they have a power running game and a mentality that they can get the ball down there and hit you right in the mouth. And if you put too many big, slow guys on the field, it's hard to deal with Jackson's speed and the speed that they have at receiver. They have great downfield speed with a receiver. So if you have too many slow guys out there, you have trouble with their speed. If you have too many little guys out there, you have trouble with their power. I think they're a really hard team to match up against. And you want to go in there and stop the run, but, you've got some fast players at quarterback, fast players at receiver. I mean, really fast players. And if you can't catch them, those guys gain a lot of yards in a hurry. So I think that's why they're such a tough matchup. It's not just Lamar. He's a big problem. but it's the overall speed they have at receiver to go along with the power that they have running the ball and the attitude they have running the ball.
I assume more questions will pop up about this game tomorrow and the game on Friday as our conversation continues to flow here. So excited that football is back.
Oh, yeah.
Tone Biggs has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, I know your record is almost impeccable against rookie quarterbacks. Going into week one, these rookie quarterbacks, the three that are starting, as a head coach, defensive coordinator, do you try to do more against them, or you just do your normal stuff and let the rookie quarterbacks make the mistake themselves?
Well, I think it depends on who you're playing against. I think you've got to take away, the things that they do well. I mean, so, for example, against Jaden Daniels, you just can't let this guy run. You go back and look. First of all, none of these guys played very much in preseason. Right. There's only a handful of passes from Penix, who it doesn't look like he's going to start anyway. Caleb Williams was 10 for 20, so he didn't play very much and only completed half his passes.
But they looked good, Coach. They looked good. He did one of these. He did one of these.
Cool.
He did one of these.
So Nix played a little bit more. May played a little bit. So it just depends on those guys. Of what you've seen from the player, what you think it's going to be. With Jaden Daniels, to me, you can't let this guy run. We saw him in the SEC against a lot of fast players. Against Alabama, he ripped off 3 or 4 long runs, and then he got knocked out of the game. And I think that's kind of the concern with Daniels is just his durability if he ends up running. But look, this guy can run. You got to take that away. I don't think that's as big of a problem with, some of the other quarterbacks. So I think you play them, based on what you feel like their skills are. But look, they haven't seen any coverages in the preseason games. They probably saw them from their own team in practice. They probably saw them in joint practices. But, I'm sure that some of these guys are going to be tested with, some different looks and, disguises and things like that. But look, in the end, what I would do is I would try to protect those guys a little bit with quick passes, the running game, and try to stay out of a lot of long yardage situations and obviously try to play the game from ahead.
Coach, confusing rookies is one of your MOs, I think, how football people talk about it. But also having different game plans for each quarter. Is that real? I think people talk about you showcasing 2 complete different game plans, which might be one of the reasons why a rookie quarterback thinks they have it figured out. And then all of a sudden we got a whole new. Have you always done that? Is that an accurate depiction of what you do whenever people talk about it in the public and media? And why doesn't everybody do that, you think? Why isn't that an everybody do that type of thing?
Yeah, look, I don't know what's going on the other side of the field. I only know what's going on my side of the field. But what I'd say is, Pat, you get into the game and you have a game plan. And if it's working, then you probably are going to stay with what you're doing, if you're not having any problems with it. You see how your opponent's attacking you and you feel like, well, that's an issue, or they start to have success with the way that they're attacking you. Well, then you shift from what you're doing to something else. I would say that against good offensive coaches that I've competed against, if something's working for you, then they shift out of it and they do something else. Well, you just can't keep doing what you're doing. You need to now adjust to, how they've shifted their attack on you and how you need to deal with that. And so it's a game within a game that goes back and forth. If you're doing well, they're not going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to do something else, and eventually you're going to have to do something else to counter it. And so there is a little bit of back and forth there, the game within the game. Yeah, you have to change because they've changed, and now they're hurting you with something that they didn't hurt you with before.
Man, some of those games, though, felt like nobody was changing on the other side.
Yep.
It felt like, some of those games.
You know what, Pat? There are some teams absolutely that do what they do. And I've heard a lot of coaches say, I don't care what they do. They're going to have to stop us. We're not going to adjust to them. And that's, it's a different mentality. It's just a different way of looking at the game. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, but it's just, a different approach to it. And I really haven't tried to take that approach, but look, there's a lot of people that have success doing it that way.
Yeah. Maybe if you get an next job, just do that. We're going to do this exactly how we do things, which is one way or the highway. Just the amount of respect that everybody that is in the football world has for you and the way they talk about, this fucking guy. We fucking didn't see that for 8 weeks. He had to hide that. The way they talk about you as if, do you hear that? And do you, how does that make you feel in every football conversation, no matter who it is? They go holy shit, can you teach me football? Is that a weird feeling for you, or is it a humbling feeling for you?
Yeah, well, look, Pat, it's always nice to be complimented. But, look, we've had some good games and we've had some success, and I've had some as head coach. and I have some that weren't so good. So, it is what it is. I always try to look ahead to the next game and not back too much, other than maybe to learn from what happened in the past. But, it's all about the next opportunity and preparing for it and doing the best you can to help your team in the next game, not worrying about something that happened in the past. So,
of course.
Maybe someday we'll look back on that. But
yeah,
right
of
now,
course.
I'm looking at my opportunities this year.
Yeah, well, I respect it. Straight back to the podium there, and that was something we saw for about 20 years. We respect it, appreciate it. Football question here from Tosh Schmidt.
Yeah, Coach, a couple years ago, you had the international game in Germany. How much different or how much more difficult is it with like the preparation going into one of those games? And do you think there will be any difference with the game on Friday, it being a season opener, and having to kind of prepare for an international game when you haven't had an actual game that matters yet?
Yeah, there's a ton of preparation that goes into that, and it starts in the off season. It starts 6 months or so before the game itself. I think in Germany we took 3, maybe 4 trips with our operations people, video people, the nutritionists, all the people that that support the game in terms of facilities, hotel, meals, transportation, the stadium itself, security, and all that. And so it's really a big undertaking. Not to mention the fact that everybody has to have a valid passport to travel, which. When you're dealing with a lot of people, call it, over 100 people in your traveling party, maybe not necessarily everybody has one. So there are really a lot of things that go into that. And then, the trip itself, just the different scheduling, could be time changes, in the time zones, things like that. Yeah, there's a lot to deal with. It's the same for both teams. So I don't think there's but it does definitely disrupt, your overall travel set, and then you have families as well, right? So sometimes families want to travel to those destinations, and so how you handle that, whether you accommodate them on the team plane, whether you don't, whether you have another plane, and so forth. It's it's all part of the process. So you just got to figure all that out. I think the Brazil game, because it's really kind of a new one down there. There's some dynamics on that. I think you're going to see some interesting uniforms, colors, and stuff like that at the game that. Maybe aren't traditional. So, it is what it is.
It's going to be,
different.
Is it going to be all blackout uniform and then all white uniform?
I think so.
Is that what
Eagles are wearing white and black, I believe.
Okay, and then just flipping that black and white on the other side.
Yeah, Packers, I think, made new uniforms for the game specifically.
Oh, for the Brazil game?
Yeah,
for the international game?
Yeah, yep.
That's really cool of them to do that. Yeah, so some of those jerseys, that'd be great.
Yeah,
down there in Brazil. All the little challenges we saw your brain go, well, then the families, obviously, and then ticketing, and then I saw your brain go, and then travel, and then are we getting another plane? And then that's a whole nother, like watching you just go through all of this shit. And that's how you guys are starting the season.
Yeah.
So I guess it's good, though, that it's in the front of the season, you think? Or middle, like the timing of it for these two teams, probably better than middle of season, or what?
That's one thing you can't control. When they schedule them, you play them, and that's what it is. But I remember when we landed in Mexico, we played the Raiders in Mexico. We came in from Colorado Springs, which was 8,000 feet. Mexico City was 8,000 feet. But I remember we landed, and we get in the bus, and there's like 2 pickup trucks. They were like little Toyota pickup trucks, but they had these machine guns mounted in the back of them, and we've had escorts before, but I mean, not with machine guns mounted in the back of a pickup truck. And, they're swirling them around and pointing at things. And some of them are pointed straight at us, and then they're pointing at the side. It was kind of a crazy scene there. So that was our escort down in Mexico City. I don't think we left the hotel, but it was a little bit of a different setup. So, you just kind of look, you take it as it rolls. And, I talked to some of the coaches from that played down there previously, and just in Mexico City, for example, the distance from the field up to the locker room, because the field was depressed, you had to climb all the way up to the locker room, was basically several stories in terms of the ramps and everything. A couple of the coaches couldn't make it back down, the thin air and all that, and so we had to have a little bit of coaching training on that and all. But yeah, there's a lot of stories that go with those international games. Just they're different. That's all. They're different.
We had to get gas masks for some of the coaching staff so they could go in at halftime. We figured it out, though.
For sure, oxygen. Absolutely. Oxygen in the coaches, oxygen in the players, oxygen in the trainers. Yeah, that was a haul there in Mexico City.
The thought,
and then Gostkowski, of course, kicked the 63-yard field goal. So I mean, it was that was great, and the thin air and the altitude and all that probably helped that situation. But yeah, it was a long haul up to that locker room.
it's a shame you couldn't take the machine gun trucks out to a golf course out there, 8,000 feet above sea level. Drive, you could drive that thing forever. I mean, that would be
400.
a fantastic thing. So we'll assume you're not going to the Brazil game on Friday. D-Bud has a question for you, though.
Yeah, I know you got a full slate this season, and obviously roam those sidelines a long time as a head coach. But you got a lot of relationship with the coaches in the league now. Any chance you take a trip to an NFL game, an NFL stadium this season? Saw you at the Battle of the Beach last week, I believe.
Yeah.
But how was that, number one? And then number two, any plans on taking any trips to NFL games this year?
Yeah, so the Battle of the Beach was great, D-Bud. It was awesome. It was a great environment there. Maybe 15,000 people, fans. The stands were packed. IMG and Bergen Catholic played a really competitive game. IMG's got I think like 20 Division I players, over the 3 years.
Jeez.
Bergen Catholic's got a lot of good players too. It was very competitive, great atmosphere. It was really a lot of fun to be at, and so but next week because I'm doing filming here at NFL Films. Next week I plan to be at the Philly Atlanta Monday night game. So you'll see me there.
Okay,
so that'll be my first game at the stadium this year. So looking forward to that one.
Oh, so that won't be a Manning cast, is what we just learned, right? That won't be a Manning cast then if you're there, because
it will be a Manning cast. Yeah, no, I'll just do it from the stadium.
Oh, that's a nice wrinkle.
Oh, it's Bill.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Hey, that would be nice.
How it is. You know how it is in TV, Pat. These tech people, they can do a lot. So I'll be able to go to the game and then do the Manning cast from the stadium.
That'll be awesome. The people will be pumped that you're there. I'm excited to see your reaction.
Oh yeah, the Philly fans love me.
Yeah.
Fly Eagles fly. Yeah, they just love me. Actually, since they beat us in the Super Bowl, they love me a lot more. They hated me up until that point. Now I probably got a couple of thanks, Coach. Glad we could, glad we could get you in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no problem. I think horse poop was eaten after that.
It was
after that. So you brought a lot of great times to that city of Philadelphia. I think you're babyface, Bill. I was actually thinking about if you were to come to a Colts game where we said, I think they would put you on camera, and I don't know if that would be a full boo. It would be a boo and then all right.
Into a standing O.
Yeah, into
Pat, same thing in Indy. They hated me in Indy. Okay, they hated me from the time the plane landed on the combine. All right, they killed me there. Then I went for it on 4th and 2 and didn't make it, and the Colts beat us. Then it was, hey, Coach, good to see you. 4th down. Hey, good to see you back in Indy, Coach. Man, we love having you here.
Yeah.
So,
easy come, easy go. Melvin Bullitt, hell of a play there.
The Giants. They didn't like me too much of the Giants. Then they beat us for 2 Super Bowls, and now it's like, hey, we love you. We love you when you were at the Giants, and we loved you. You won 4 Super Bowls for us, 2 for us, and 2 for the Patriots. So, the Giants love me.
Oh,
4 Super Bowl wins. I was a part of all 4 of them.
Coach, I know there's probably some football fans that are a bit jaded that you delivered the worst times of their life on a regular basis, for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long
Buffalo.
time. Yeah, but there's a chance at Buffalo.
Falcons fan.
Jets fans, Steelers fans, Colts fans will probably feel that way forever because you brought, bad experiences. Supposed to be joyful.
Yeah.
Supposed to be joyful, but instead, this guy is every time. Him and his super handsome little quarterback. They come to town and they just always win. But now I think everybody's so appreciative that you're joining the media and spreading all the incredible knowledge that you have. Legit, I think it's big babyface Bill Belichick fall season. I think everybody's gonna. I think so, Bill. I legitimately believe that. I can't wait to experience it. Another man. Last question here, who is obviously incredibly pumped. Talked about it all morning. Whenever we found out you were going to be joining us again today for a bonus Belichick Monday. Boston Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, and also all those fans fucking suck it. What's he supposed to do? Not win games? He's going to win games, okay? But, Coach, looking at week 1, for a lot of these teams, are the playbooks wide open on offense and defense? Obviously, some of the, teams have had injuries in training camp, and then some others have holdouts and things like that. But are playbooks all the way open for these teams, or do they have to kind of figure out what their team is good at before, being able to call whatever the hell they want?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think there's a couple things on that. I mean, number one, I think you want to run in this game, what you're most confident in and what you've worked the most on. So, again, if you look at the preseason games, the average time for starters in the preseason games was 10%. That's league average. A third of the teams played their starters less than 5%. So, whatever you've worked on in practice is probably what you're going to want to run in the game, because if the other team does something different, it'll be a lot easier for you to handle it or adjust to it on the fly because you have more confidence and more experience in those plays. I also think, though, that coaches are going into the opener saying, okay, here's something we're going to need to do against this team in the opener, and so you practice that. For example, the Giants going to Minnesota. I'm sure that Coach Daboll has some answers for the blitzes that Coach Flores is going to run at them in Minnesota. So what those answers are, I doubt that he's shown them. I think he's probably got a couple of new things. And so whether you want to say that's opening the playbook, I would say it's more preparing for an opponent that you have a pretty good idea what they're going to do. I think there'll be some different answers. I would imagine that in a situation like that, Coach Flores would probably, get up there and show, a heavy pressure look, maybe back out of it. Drop out of it a time or two and kind of see what the Giants are up to, something like that. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game there. But I think if it's something that you're going to have to deal with early in the season, that you want to prepare for that in training camp, not just wait until the week of the first game to do it. So that's is the playbook wide open? Well, sure it is. But, to go in there and run a bunch of triple reverse passes and fake punts and everything else, I don't know if that's really the way you want to open the season when you've been practicing things, for, 6-7 weeks now. I think you really want to, see how good you are at the things you've been practicing.
Oh, the no fun league. Got it. Jeez. All right, we're not running.
Well, no, hey, Pat, look, give the Lions credit. They ran a fake punt last year on 4th and 2. And ended up driving down and beating Kansas City on that. Yeah. That was a big play for him. So I'm not saying you can't run, trick plays and that kind of thing. But I think as far as like opening up the playbook, you don't want to, I would say this is a game you don't want to outthink yourself. Look, it's opening day for the players and the coaches. Do the things that you're most confident in, that you've had the most reps in. There's a lot to prepare for. If you overthink it and you're paralyzed out there, then you're probably not going to be any good at whatever you do.
Let's try to play the most sound game we could possibly play this early in the season, and then we continue to develop and evolve. Coach, we can't wait to do the season alongside of you. We appreciate the hell out of you. Can't wait to watch those two Bryans battle there. Yeah. Daboll and Flores. That's going to be a little – I hadn't even thought of it really, and then now I'm like jacked up about the cat and mouse game. And before we go, Coach – I do believe there's you have an announcement to make. A lot of announcements, okay? This one is a big one, I do believe, if I am hearing what I think you're about to say correctly. Bill, any announcement for the people?
Pat, I can't really believe I'm doing this, but I've joined InstaFace.
Yeah, yeah, he's on InstaFace.
Yes.
Yep, he's going to be tweeting on InstaFace officially at Bill Belichick on Instagram. Welcome to social media, Bill. This is what we're talking about.
Let's go. Hey, Bill.
I'm excited, and we checked it out this morning whenever we found out about this. There's a link, obviously, to his website that has a hub for everything that he's going to be doing this fall with clips and everything. Bill, I'm excited that you're doing this. Welcome to social media. People are going to love you on the internet. Big brain, big name, doing good things. We appreciate you diving in, bub.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Pat. Thank you. Look forward to being with you all year. Really excited to see the game start and talking to you every Monday.
You're the man. Ladies and gentlemen, the GOAT, Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
He's on InstaFace.
That's awesome.
Never thought I'd see the day.
No.
I'm not on my face or
not doing
whatever
that kind of stuff.
Insta tweet. I'm not.
Insta space.
That's his website right there. Great website. Hey, they've been.
Oh, that's sweet. That's him and his dad too.
Yeah. Just think about Bill Belichick. Attention to detail type shit for like everything he's got going on. That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening right now. So like the Instagram getting launched is hilarious to think about because of his views on social media. But also the more he learns, he's like, oh, I have to have a place that I can release my own shit through. It's like, yes, Bill.
Bingo.
He's trying to do it right.
Or you're using everybody else's. Yeah, you either use your own or you use other people's, Bill. And if you use other people's, you know what that means. I do know what that means. Yeah. Okay. I will join InstaFace. I think he's going to get on X too, inevitably. I assume that's going to be the case. But this is his entire setup. You wonder what he's doing? Everything. He's doing everything. The Coach podcast should be fantastic. Inside the NFL with NFL Films. That's on Friday nights now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It was on Tuesday, I believe, last year. It is now on Friday nights. Incredible cast, him getting out of there. Then he's doing everything he's got. Let's go. Being
Yep.
joined. He's going to be working.
Oh, yeah.
Spreading that knowledge. It's
Love
good
it.
shit. We're lucky to do it. All right, let's get the hell out of here.